Hi everyone, Simon Keeling here, weatherweb.net. Thank you for coming along again and watching the videos. Don't forget, we kept free of charge by the adverts you see around the screen, so you come back and use the videos and use the adverts. That's what keeps us free of charge. And of course you can use the charts and tell your friends about us. All of that builds the revenues, which means that the website can be kept free of charge. Now, certainly got a change that's taken place this week. We've gone from the cold weather of last week into wet and windy conditions this week, and you can see this area of rain that's been driving its way eastwards during the course of today. Interesting to note how little rain through the Midlands and across North East England. That's because of the rain shadow effect. Rain coming up against the mountains across the western parts of Wales, also across the Western Pennines. The air flows over the mountains, it's effectively forced to condense out. Rain falls over the mountains and to the west of the mountains. It descends, the air descends over on the eastern side of the mountains, and we find that those areas are sheltered from the rain as it moves in, which is exactly what's been going on today, as predicted incidentally very well by the models. Now, the reason for this unsettled weather, you won't be surprised to learn, is the jet stream. This is the position of the jet stream as of 6 o'clock this evening. There it is, winding its way across the country, hence the reason for the wet and the windy weather that we have. And you won't be surprised to learn that it's across us tomorrow as well, with more wet and windy weather on its way. Interesting to note that the feature just gets squeezed away down to the south towards the end of the week, look. So we go onto the colder side of the jet stream, hence the reason for temperatures falling. Doesn't last very long though, because then we find the jet building back in, look here, from the north and the west during the weekend and into the early part of next week, which basically lifts up temperatures again before it starts to collapse away once again down to the southeast during the latter part of next week. Now, we've got some pretty feisty weather to come during the next week. This is the rainfall prediction, total rainfall prediction up until 6 o'clock next Tuesday morning. Notice how little rain there is here across the east of the country, with just 11 to 15 millimetres here. But look at the rain across the west. We've got 70 to 100 millimetres of rain falling there. Now, that's around 3 to 4 inches, and again it's because of this effect of the westerly wind blowing in from the Atlantic. Also, just note as well, quite a bit of rain on the southern coast here, 40 millimetres, not as much as in the west, but that's almost 2 inches of rain, so it is going to be wet there too. Now, given that the ground is soggy, given that we've got lots of surface water already, it's not going to take much to lead to localised flooding. So if you are affected by flooding, do keep your eye on the flood warnings, particularly across southwest England, across Wales, northwest England, and also the western parts of Scotland. But it's not only rain that we have to think about, it's winds too. These are the winds through this evening. These are the gusts of wind. Now, this is the model produced gusts, so these are gusts taken over flat open land. Anywhere that's built up, you'll find that these will be significantly reduced, but this is over flat open land, and you can see we've got gusts of sort of 50 miles an hour plus for many. They'll fade away for a time overnight, but then return, look, during tomorrow. Strongest gusts by the end of Tuesday are probably going to be across southern and southeastern coast of England. Could be gusting as high as 50 miles an hour there, and also here, look, across northern Scotland, where we could find 70 mile an hour winds. And those 70 mile an hour winds hang on into Wednesday morning, and through Wednesday itself we find another area of strong winds just moving through the Irish Sea, as well as the strong winds affecting northern Scotland. So if you're sailing, not particularly great one to be sailing in this week. It is just going to be so windy because of the jet stream, although what we will find is that although we get some gusts coming through towards the end of the week, as well as low pressure moves in once again, by the time we're getting into the weekend, things should ease off somewhat, and we should find the winds tending to die down as cooler weather arrives for a time. Now, on the pressure charts here, you can pick out the area of low pressure here that's up to the northwest of the country. This is at 6 o'clock this evening. Here's the area of rain moving eastwards, another area of rain moving in. But what I want you to notice here is just how this train of low pressures move in during the course of this week. Look, one after the other, just tracking through here. They just keep on coming, bringing us outbreaks of rain and also strong winds. Then, by Thursday, interesting things happen. Here's low pressure moving in then, but notice it's not come to the south. Watch what happens to it. It drifts east into Scotland, it meets colder air coming in from the northwest, and the next area of low pressure that comes in can't take that track anymore, so it gets shifted further southwards and it moves here. That then moves south of the country, deepens rapidly, heads off into France and takes strong winds and rain there, turning to sleet and to snow. But what we need to watch out for is the risk of that low being further north. If it comes here, and tracks that a little bit further north, so only by 100 miles or so, we could well find that the south of the country gets into very wet, very windy conditions during Friday, which would also turn to sleet and to snow on its back edge. At the moment it looks like it goes further south, and it looks like what we do have on Friday is just this colder north to northeasterly wind digging in, and that brings cold air down through all areas during Saturday. Now it's not going to be cold as it was last week, it's just cooler, and particularly cooler compared to the mild conditions we've had this week. Doesn't last long though, because by Saturday evening and into Sunday we're going to find these west and northwesterly winds kicking back in again. Yes, they'll bring some outbreaks of rain, but they'll also serve to be lifting temperatures as well, although probably not lasting for all that long. That's because it looks as if cooler weather is going to try and get back in, and it's picked up quite well by the models as well. This is the ECMWF valid for last night. Let's just move it on in 24-hour steps, and what I want you to notice is these ridges, that's these colours here, look, the N shapes in the colours that build in during the end of next week. Now this is the position this week. This is the position for Friday. Okay, now then, watch. Look at the size of that ridge that builds in, and the effect of this is it buckles the flow into the north and the northeast and makes it go cooler. Now that one doesn't last very long, it collapses away towards the east, but then we get another one following in from the west. Here it is, look. So another one builds in, and that one is looking to be a bigger feature. It's getting further north, look, the tip of it is getting further north. So the indications from that are that let's just get it onto the 7th, there we are that we could find the flow going into a colder north or northeasterly. Now if this manages to do this, and if you've been watching over the last few days you'll know this is what I've been hinting at, that I thought the ridge could get in and it could tip us back into a northerly again. What we could find is that come around about the 10th of February we're into a straight northerly flow. We get a low forming down here across the Mediterranean, we get a ridge out towards the west here, eventually the flow turns more into a northeasterly direction, low pressure down here, high pressure up here, and we see a fall off in temperatures around the middle of the month, which could take us through to the sort of 19th, 20th. Now obviously the sun's working away at things now, so it perhaps wouldn't be quite as cold as it was last week, but it could still be cold and it could still be wintry, and that, as I say, could take us up to around about the 20th of the month. Now normally when you're looking at these things you do treat them with a degree of scepticism, but what's interesting is if we look at the Canadian model, look, for the 7th of February, that also has a ridge building out to the west. It also has colder air coming in from the north, so it's backed up. The story is fairly consistent. And then if we just take a look at the ensemble, this is the GFS ensemble. So if we just go back to the 7th of February on this one, you'll notice again, look, there's the ridge built in, a north and northwesterly flow coming down across the country. That would feed into low pressure down here, and what we would eventually find is low pressure here, high pressure building here, a north and northeasterly flow kicking in and going into those cooler conditions. So there's certainly some backup there from the models for the idea of the colder weather returning, and it's certainly something that I wouldn't be ruling out, but of course we'll keep you informed. Up till then though, we've got to think about heavy rain during the next 24 to 48 hours, and we've got to think about some very gusty winds as well, although thankfully, as I said, it is going to be fairly mild. So I'll leave you with that for now, but thanks again for watching weatherweb.net. Don't forget we're kept free of charge by the adverts you see around the screen here, and by you coming back and visiting the site, so thank you for doing that. And for now, keep the sun shining.